Years ago, I was an exterminator, and because of that, obviously there was a lot of poison at my house. We had a special container that we always kept the poison in. And when the mailman would come, they knew where to put it. We had an understanding. One time, while I was going out of town, I had a mailman drop it off, and this particular mailman didn't know the procedures. They were new, they were filling in, and they were afraid of my dogs. And they threw the rat poison out into my yard. It was in a box, but he threw it out there, and my dogs tore the package open. And they ate 3 pounds of rat poison. When I got home, I saw the package and I panicked because I knew what had happened. And so I called the 1-800 number on the side of the package and I told them what my dogs had done. And they basically gave me their condolences and said, your dogs are not going to survive. They said a dog can't survive even a couple of pieces, much less a couple of pounds. And so as the night went on, my dogs began to get sicker and sicker. And my wife stayed up most of the night just holding the dogs and trying to spoon feed them. And they got really sick. And the next morning, I had to go out of town. In the middle of the day, my wife FaceTimes me, and she's just hysterical. She's nuts, crying and upset, and rightfully so. And she said, please pray for our dogs. She goes, I can't stand to see them suffer like this. And so I began praying over our dogs, and I was begging God to give them relief. I said, God, if they're going to die, then please take them and bring them home. And I said, but God, if it be possible, any way at all be possible, then I ask that you heal them dogs. Even as I pray this prayer, I ask that you heal them dogs. And as I'm praying this prayer, my wife says, oh my gosh. And these dogs, they're literally unable to walk. They can't even raise their head up. They're so sick. They haven't been able to raise their head in several hours. And my wife's been forcing water down their throats. And I said, what? And she says, as you're praying that prayer, the cat came outside. And when the cat came outside, the dogs got excited and jumped up and began chasing the cat. And my wife is in hysterics because these dogs, she tried to pick them up and put them on their feet and they would fall over. They were too weak to even walk. But God healed them dogs. When I prayed that prayer, God healed them dogs. The manufacturer called me that afternoon and they started asking me, so, how's the dogs? I'm assuming they've passed at this point. And I said, no, believe it or not, the dogs are okay. They're fine and dandy. And then the lady says, well, obviously, they didn't eat the poison. I said, no, they ate the poison. They ate it for sure. God healed them. And the lady went, God healed them? Yeah, okay, sure he did. She goes, anyway, I'll call again tomorrow. Because obviously she didn't believe me. And so the next morning she called and she starts giving me her condolences for the loss of my animals. And I said, my animals are fine. I said, I told you, God healed them dogs. And so the lady went, okay, sure. I'll talk to you later. So later, she calls me again. This time, she has the scientist on the phone with her, the one who does the behind the scenes, mixing up the potions, if you will. I don't know what they call them. And so they start asking about the animals, and they want me to tell them the story of how this happened. And I tell them, and I said, I began to pray. I began to pray, and them dogs got up, and they began to walk. And they said, so you think God healed them dogs? I went, I don't think it. I know it. And to this day, my dogs, the same 2 dogs I'm talking about, they're at my house as I speak. This has been 8 years ago, and my dogs are still alive. So what's the point of me telling you this story? The reason I told you this story is because I don't don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're dealing with. I don't know what trauma or what emergent situation that you need God to come through. But what I do know is that He knows. He sees your struggle. I'm going to tell you what my wife told me. Please pray for our situation. Please pray for your situation. It's time for you to give it to God and let God do what you could never do. I could not heal them dogs. I didn't have the ability. So I laid it at the feet of the only one that could, and He did it. He did it. It's time for you to let God do it. You've done it your way long enough. Let God do it.